Hi, welcome back. So in the last video, we started with JavaScript. We discussed about the basic primitive data types of JavaScript. And in this video, we are going to continue with JavaScript and we are going to see what variables are, right? So this was what we had covered in the last one. We have 5 data types: number, string, Boolean, null, and undefined. Number represents a number. It can be any type of a number. String represents a sentence, a set of characters. Boolean has true or false. Null means a value that is defined but not valid for operations. Undefined means that the value isn't even defined, right? That's what data types are. So the next thing we're going to see is variables. So now variables is a really central part of any programming language. No programming language can work without a variable, right? And if we want to define a variable, it is simply a container to store data. Now, what do I mean by that? It will be better explained with this example right here. So we can see var x is equal to 4. So now this var also stands for variable here, right? So we have var x is equal to 4. So what this line is doing, let's just copy this. Let's just try this out in the console and we'll see what happens. Right. So let's do var x is equal to 4. And that's it. So this does not return anything. So basically the output we get here is what the code returns to us, right? And in this line, what we are doing is we are just simply setting the value of x, which is a variable, to be 4, right? So that is actually all that a variable is. It is an identifier that can store any value that you want. So now you remember that if I do 4 and I press enter, I get 4. So what if I do x and then I press enter? I still get 4 because we have stored 4 inside of x. We could do something like x is equal to 10, and then if we do x, we get 10. We could do x is equal to 10 by 4 and we get x is 2.5. Then you could make a similar variable. Let's name this second and we'll make this 4. We'll make a variable named third. We'll make this 5. So now can you do something like x is equal to second plus third? Yes, you can. And now we see x is simply 9. So basically you are doing the same things that you were doing with raw data, like integer or a string. The only thing is you have stored the data in a container, and that container has a name, and that name in this case is x or second or third. You could also have x is equal to second plus 1. So now we see x is 5. So you can use the variable as you can use the data type. There's never a problem in that, right? And everything else is the same, except you can change their value at a later point of time. So if you are making a program where you have rapidly changing data, then you would use a variable, and whenever you need to perform the same operation on different variable, you would just update the value inside the container, which is the variable, and everything else would remain the same. You will get a better idea of this. We'll do some small exercises with variables in the next video. So what we made right now was an integer variable. Why? Because we had given x an integer value of 4. So what if now I make another variable by the name of y and I give it a value of hello with a space. So now if I do y, I get hello back, right? And again, you could do any operation with this. You could do y plus, let's say, world, a classic example. So we get hello world back, right? So again, y basically is the name of a container of a string, right? And whenever you write y, its value will be substituted by the value inside that container. So when here we wrote y plus world, y gets substituted by hello space, which is what we gave to it here, right? So this is what a variable is. And if you are new to programming, then you need to know something like this. What does x equal to y mean? Like, now x equal to y, like x and y we already have. Let's say we have something like a equal to b. Like, these could be any random values. X, y, z is equal to abc, right? So in normal maths, until now what we have seen is that this means that we are kind of checking that they are equal, or this is a statement, right, that x, y, z and abc are equal. But what basically it is in programming is that we are assigning the value at the right to the value at the left. And the reason I'm telling you this is that sometimes you might see something like x is equal to x plus 1. Now this might seem really weird to somebody who tries to compare it with maths, because x can never be equal to x plus 1. But what this value is basically doing, what this expression is basically doing, is that it is assigning a value of x plus 1 in x. So currently, if x is 5, then x is equal to x plus 1. If we do, then we write x, we get 6. And now if we do x is equal to x star 2, we get x as 12. So whenever you have something like an equal to statement in, in a variable, then you are just assigning a value. You are assigning a value that is equivalent to the right expression to the left expression, right, to the left variable. And that is what this equal to would mean, right? And the next thing we can have is a Boolean variable. So now you might be a little confused. In the last video you might have got about what do I mean by Boolean can take two values, true or false, right? What I meant is that a variable of Boolean type can take two values, true or false. We already have x, we'll take true. So now if I press z, this gives me true, and if I do z equal to false, this gives me false. So now z is a Boolean variable, right? And z can take values true or false because we are storing Boolean data in it. Alright, so that was z, okay? And we'll see some logical operations in the next video too. Yeah, and that's when you'll get some good clarity about Boolean variables too, right? Yeah, so alright, so now let me show you null, right? So y was earlier a string, but now I can set it to null. And now if I press y, it gives me null, and you can see it is not in the same color as the normal string, so it means this is not a normal string value. This is something different. This is a different data type. And if I try to do y plus world, I get null world, but in the end this is not a string because you would not want null world at any point in your website, right? So that's the thing. And if I clear the console, now one thing that you might need to know in a console is that if you press the up button, you can get the command above the current command. So yeah, anyway, that's just a shortcut. You could write that again too. So yeah, that is what null is. And if I try to do something like y is equal to undefined, it gives me undefined now. So now if I do y, it still gives me undefined world, but there is still a difference. This is because of internal typecasting. Like the type is already changed to string. If we do something like this concatenation, you can ignore this for now. This can become a little confusing. But undefined and null are again different things, right? And just to revise this lecture, we have something known as a variable in every programming language. And in JavaScript, we can write var to denote the. Alright. So one thing that I want to show you is that initially you need to give a value to a variable, right? And when you define a variable, you need to write var. And once a variable has been defined, you can simply do x equal to 5, right? And we see this and this is different. Although this still worked and you can still do x and get 5, but the difference is that this x is not the same as this x. So you would only write var before the assignment if you are using that variable for the first time, right? We'll see more of variables in the next video again. So for now, you just needed to know what a variable was, alright? So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the